Hello there and welcome to the Yellow Submarine. This video would be showing moments from when Sean Lennon spoke about his father. Please do well to hit the subscribe button and put on your post notifications bell. Lennon was only 5 years old when his famous father, John Lennon, was gunned down. So he can only speculate what the ex-Beatle would think of his band, the ghost of a Saber Tooth Tiger. I would hope that he would be happy with it, Lennon said. Honestly, I have no idea. The band, whose latest album is Midnight Sun, is a collaboration between Lennon, 38, and his girlfriend, model Charlotte Kemp Muhl. The two met at the Coachella Music Festival in 2006, when she was only 18. Lennon said it was several years before he knew Muhl was musically inclined. "We started a band so that we could spend more time together because I was on the tour and I never got to see her, and she was always working in some other country," he recalled Tuesday during an appearance on Global's The Morning Show. "We figured if we started a band, we'd get to hang out more." Lennon said the couple shares a passion for music. "We do it because we love music. That's our main motivation," he explained. "Our intention is not to be as big as Justin Bieber, but, of course, we're not against success." He also defended his reputation as a perfectionist. "I don't know if we're especially OCD or not," said Lennon. "We try to be a little bit loose because rock and roll is not an exact science, but we spend a lot of time on it. Let's put it that way. And we care a lot about the result. Working with his partner is easy," said Lennon, who previously performed with his mother, Yoko Ono. "I was raised by a single mother, so I feel comfortable around most women. Some women," he insisted. "I've always had the choice to work with people that I'm close to. I prefer that because I feel it's more comfortable." Lennon said his mother, now 81, has more energy than I do. "She also shares her opinions of his music. She gives me advice. I don't know if I will take it, but she's my mom, so she definitely gives me a lot of feedback." The ghost of a Saber Tooth Tiger performs Tuesday night at the Hoxton in Toronto and Wednesday at Montreal's La Sala Rosa. They will be back in Montreal on June 25th at Place des Arts and in Toronto on June 27th at the Sony Center for the Performing Arts as the opening act for Beck. The legendary Beatle, John Lennon, unfortunately died too soon at the age of 40 in a tragic way. His sons, Julian and Sean, didn't even have the chance to say goodbye. Yoko Ono's son, Sean, interviewed his half-brother Julian, celebrating what would have been John Lennon's 80th birthday, and they recalled the last time they talked to their father. Julian was only 17 when John Lennon was murdered, and said that his final conversation with his father was on the phone. They talked about the single, Just Like Starting Over. Julian said about his last conversation with John Lennon, "Dad and I had been getting on and speaking a lot more on the phone, you know, when I was sort of 15, 16, and 17. I just remember I was living in North Wales at the time, and I'd spend 6 months or a year in boarding as well, and I'd finally come home. And I was living at Mum's house, and I was finishing up at school. I remember him playing Starting Over the phone. He just mixed it. He played it over the phone, and I was living in the attic in the house, in this street called Castle Street in a town called Ruthin. I remember hearing it and saying I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I didn't know what to expect from this new album of his, Double Fantasy. And I'd heard that and I told him how much I loved it, and then obviously, what happened. I just remember that as being the last kind of moments, listening to him being extremely happy in a happy place, and doing what he loved, and the music he played me at that particular point, Starting Over, and some of the other album tracks. I was very happy for him and looking forward to seeing him again." Anyway, in another dimension, about that time, Sean Lennon said, "Yeah, well, the sort of stark contrast between how optimistic that record is musically and how happy he is, and then the sort of context in which it came out is just, you know, there's no other way to put it, but it's tragic, but it's incredible. That is why that record, specifically, is emotional for me to listen to, because I love the music. I remember my earliest memories of being in the studio during that record, but at the same time, it's a little overwhelming how tragic the whole thing is." John Lennon's son Sean relishes his late dad. Consider his dad one of a kind, as fans remember him in the build-up to the 42nd anniversary of his death. December 8th this year marks 4 decades and 2 years since Lennon was assassinated by Mark Chapman outside his home in New York. Speaking in the issue, Sean Lennon said, "Dad was completely happy to run the risk of not being understood. He just made the statements he wanted to make." He added, "When Dad did Give Peace a Chance, or The Bed-In, he was ridiculed for it because it was seen as a joke. But the impact was great because he was a pop star who was rejecting everything about that life, and people respected him for it. he was one of a kind. By the time Sean Ono Lennon was born, his father, music icon and peace activist John Lennon, had already embarked on several artistic and philosophical evolutions. Though Sean's time with his dad was short, it was rich, and the majority of his young life before John's murder was spent with his father at his side. The older Lennon having famously decided to be a house husband. "There are so many things I've always admired about my dad," Lennon explains. "He never stayed the same. I think that's incredible. If you look at the difference between Abbey Road and Two Virgins, it's such a stark transformation. He was always looking to revise and improve his worldview and his thinking. I think that is true creativity, and it's true intelligence as well." Lennon was only 5 years old when his father was killed outside their home in New York City on December 8, 1980. Leaving a void not only in his life, but the lives of millions of music fans and political renegades across the globe. Lennon continued being raised by his mother, conceptual artist and activist Yoko Ono. He learned the guitar by playing Beatles songs while Ono taught him how to record and produce music. Ono also influenced Lennon with her interpretation of art, which impacted him during his formative years. She has this philosophy about art and creativity that art takes place in your mind, and the medium in which you express the idea is unimportant. Lennon says, "It's secondary." She never really felt that there was a medium she couldn't do. She made films, paintings, sculptures, rock and roll records. For her, it was all just another kind of pain. Now 45, Lennon has drawn influence from both his parents. His voice is a ghost-like match to his father's, and he explores a modernized style of psychedelia in his songwriting. He is currently a part of the Claypool-Lennon Delirium, an atmospheric rock group formed with Primus frontman Les Claypool. The duo dropped their second record, South of Reality, earlier this year. Many of Lennon's songs on the album read like short stories. The first single, Blood and Rockets, tells of Jack Parsons, a rocket scientist and engineer who helped develop the liquid fuel technology that eventually led America to the moon. Parsons was also enamored with the occult and practiced witchcraft. He died in a science experiment explosion. Amethyst Realm was written after Lennon watched a TV report about a woman who claimed she was having sex with ghosts. Much like his father, Lennon's music is decorated with references to social discourse. He feels that social media has been monopolized and free speech is being compromised to the algorithms of artificial intelligence. Our connections have led to real-world disconnects, resulting in the degradation of human empathy. "A lot of my songs tend to be based on real-life surrealism," Lennon says. "The modern world is so bizarre, it almost feels unnecessary to make things up anymore." It's clear where Lennon's extended worldview and experiential artistic style come from. Some people feel like, to forge their identity, they need to reject their parents entirely, he says. Some people don't feel that way at all. In my case, I was prone towards the latter because my dad died when I was young. Him disappearing from my life amplified my desire to be a part of music. It was a way of finding some kind of solace from the void that was left by him not being around. Since his birth, there has been an aura of greatness, of expected brilliance and mastery around Sean Lennon. He was the son of a Beatle, the son of the Lennon in Lennon-McCartney. He wasn't disappointed. Sean has remained true to himself, not trying to repeat his father's success, but creating his own. Thanks to his father's musical legacy, his mother's business know-how, and his enterprises, Sean is a wealthy man. Find out just how wealthy and what his net worth is. Sean opened up about the pain of listening to Lennon's final album, Double Fantasy, after his father's death. 5 years of age at the time it was recorded, Sean would sit in on his parents' recording sessions. The sort of stark contrast between how optimistic and positive Double Fantasy is musically and how happy he is, and then the sort of context in which it came out is just, there's no other way to put it, but it's tragic, but it's incredible, Sean said. That is why that record, specifically, is emotional for me to listen to, because I love the music, he continued. I remember my earliest memories being in the studio during that record, but at the same time, it's a little overwhelming how tragic the whole thing is.